At 2:17 a.m., as the entire city lay in deep rest, a lone young custodian stood quietly inside an empty corporate tower, gazing at an executive desk that wasn't his. He gripped a mop handle in one palm and a quiet ambition in the other. What no one suspected was that someday that very desk would belong to him. Introducing the struggling main character, the city of Brookdale rarely went completely dark. Even after midnight, neon flickered across high-rise windows, vehicles rolled along damp roads, and a low pulse of activity lingered. Yet high up on the 27th level of one tower, perfect stillness reigned, except for the soft scrape of a mop gliding over tiles. That mop was in the hands of Daniel Carter. Daniel was 26. He handled the graveyard shift as a custodian. From 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. each night, he tidied workspaces occupied by influential figures during daylight hours. Figures with impressive job titles. Figures in tailored suits. Figures living lives Daniel could scarcely picture. His outfit was plain, navy polo, dark trousers, a modest name tag, maintenance crew. Night after night, he collected waste bins, polished tabletops, removed coffee rings, and ran a vacuum over plush flooring worth more than his entire living space. But every night, Daniel also stopped. Just briefly, he would position himself next to one of the wide panoramic windows, stare out at the sparkling metropolis below, and murmur under his breath, "Someday," only 2 syllables, "someday." His difficult life, Daniel's early years had been far from gentle. He was raised in a struggling corner of town where hope often felt like an expensive extra. His dad labored at a plant until the plant shut down forever. Afterward, everything shifted, debts mounted, tensions echoed through the rooms, and eventually his dad walked away. Daniel was 15 at the time. His mom juggled 2 positions just to cover groceries and utilities. She returned home drained every evening. Yet no matter her fatigue, she repeated one sentence to Daniel: "Your future doesn't need to mirror this." Daniel held onto her words, but faith by itself doesn't cover the rent. Following high school, Daniel dreamed of university, but finances were painfully scarce. So rather than lecture halls, Daniel entered the workforce, first a storage facility, then food courier shifts, then night watchman duties, and finally custodian, a role most people walk past without a glance. The silent classroom, yet Daniel observed details others ignored. Each evening after the staff departed, they also abandoned whiteboards covered in concepts, notepads filled with strategies, monitors displaying spreadsheets. Daniel grew intrigued. Extremely intrigued. While tidying offices, he began studying whatever was left out: corporate summaries, inspirational sayings taped beside keyboards, volumes forgotten on shelves. One evening, he noticed an abandoned paperback. Its cover declared, "How Concepts Turn into Enterprises." He glanced around. The floor was deserted, so he lowered himself into a seat. Just for a short while and opened the pages. Minutes stretched into a full hour. That single evening shifted something deep within. From then onward, the corporate tower turned into his private academy. Facing doubts and failures nightly, Daniel maintained the spaces. But nightly, he also absorbed knowledge. He streamed tutorials during breaks, devoured whatever reading material employees left, jotted key points into a pocket journal he always carried. He studied entrepreneurship, team guidance, online promotion, software basics, yet the world beyond those walls remained harsh. His rented room was cramped, his cupboards frequently bare. His companions chuckled whenever he mentioned launching something of his own. "Dude, you mop floors," one remarked. "Those executives are loaded." Daniel offered a tight grin, but the comment stung. Internally, uncertainty began to murmur, "Perhaps they're correct. Perhaps this is my ceiling." Then a heavier blow landed. His mother fell ill. Hospital statements arrived. Daniel picked up extra shifts. Rest turned into a rare privilege. Ambitions seemed remote once more. Certain evenings he sat motionless on his mattress, eyes fixed on blank paint, too weary to plan, too weary to believe. The breaking moment, one shift, Daniel reached the building utterly spent, his limbs dragged, his thoughts felt hollow. While servicing the 27th floor, he bumped a pile of documents off a workstation. Sheets fluttered everywhere. Irritated, he smacked the mop against the partition. "What's the point of all this effort?" he muttered. His words bounced off the empty walls. He surveyed the luxurious setup, the gleaming surfaces, the spacious executive seat positioned behind the workstation. He approached it. Gradually, then he eased into it for the very first time. The cushion yielded comfortably, commanding, unfamiliar. For an instant, Daniel shut his eyelids and he pictured colleagues entering and greeting, "Morning, Mr. Carter." He pictured chairing discussions, creating something substantial. Something worthwhile, but reality surged back. He reopened his eyes and noticed the maintenance trolley parked nearby. A custodian role-playing executive, Daniel rose swiftly, chagrined. But an unexpected emotion surfaced. Not humiliation, but fury, not toward society, not toward the position, toward his own hesitation, because a sharp truth struck him. The sole gap separating those who occupied such seats and himself wasn't brilliance, wasn't gifts, it was sheer endurance. They refused to surrender. And perhaps, just perhaps, he shouldn't surrender either. The turning point that same night, Daniel resolved something, a modest choice, yet transformative. He would stop merely wishing. He would construct, regardless of the years required, regardless of mockery, regardless of repeated setbacks, because setbacks still beat lifelong remorse. So Daniel designed a fresh daily pattern. Labor, study, create every single day. No exceptions, hard work begins. Daniel began rising sooner, even following overnight duties. He allowed himself 4 hours of rest. Then 4 hours dedicated to growth. He mastered programming, corporate planning, internet advertising. Gradually, very gradually, he shaped an offering, a modest web-based tool. Initially, it flopped. Zero traction. He attempted again, fresh concept, fresh disappointment repeatedly. Companions urged, chill out. Things are all right, but Daniel rejected all right. He craved transformation. He craved the existence he glimpsed beyond those pains. Years of persistence, seasons turned. Months grew into years. Daniel continued servicing corporate floors, but an inner shift had occurred. He was no longer merely a custodian. He had become a creator, a student, a resilient soul. He hoarded every spare cent. Purchased learning materials, refined his concepts, endured more disappointments than he tracked, yet every disappointment revealed a lesson. One evening, 3 years beyond first opening that overlooked volume, Daniel released another attempt. A straightforward digital system assisting modest enterprises with scheduling bookings. Uncomplicated but genuinely helpful. Initially, just 2 clients registered, then 5, then 10, then 50. Daniel monitored the metrics after shifts late into darkness. His fingers shook. Momentum was building, something tangible. The moment everything changed, one dawn, Daniel awoke to astonishing news. Hundreds of registrations poured in overnight. An influential online writer had featured his tool. Visits surged dramatically. Messages overloaded his inbox. Enterprises across regions adopted it. Daniel perched on his bed's edge. Eyes locked on the display, pulse pounding. For years he had toiled unseen, amid uncertainty, amid weariness. Now recognition had arrived, but achievement rarely arrives instantly. Daniel doubled his efforts. He enhanced features, responded personally to every inquiry, resolved every glitch, heeded every suggestion. His modest concept gradually evolved into a legitimate enterprise, an expanding one, a revenue-generating one. The full circle moment. 5 years following that pivotal evening in the executive seat, Daniel re-entered the same corporate tower, but this time not via the service door. Via the main lobby entrance. He wore tailored attire, not maintenance gear. The firm that once paid him to clean now leased workspace to his own venture. The lift opened, 27th floor. Daniel moved deliberately down the corridor. Flashbacks rushed in. Sleepless hours, private uncertainties, quiet self-education. He stepped into his fresh workspace, and there it waited. A broad workstation beside the glass, and that same familiar seat. He smiled softly, then settled into it, no longer imagining, no longer wishing, but truly experiencing it. For several long minutes he gazed across the cityscape. Identical illumination, identical horizon, yet an utterly transformed existence. The emotional reflection. Daniel reflected on his mother. Her weary expression, her steady encouragement. Your future doesn't need to mirror this. He lifted his phone and dialed her number. When she picked up, his tone trembled. Mom, yes, honey, I believe things are going to turn out all right. She asked nothing further. She simply wept, because mothers always understand. The real lesson. Daniel's journey began circulating. Some labeled him fortunate, but fortune played no role. They missed the sleepless stretches, the inner questions, the bare cupboards. The solitary nights absorbing knowledge in vacant suites. Triumph appeared abrupt, but it had been constructed gradually, silently, steadfastly, layer upon layer. Final message to the audience. So if you are here right now, and existence feels burdensome, if your ambition appears unreachable, if others mock your aspirations, think of Daniel. A custodian clutching a mop, a visionary armed only with resolve. He lacked wealth, he lacked networks, he lacked quick paths, but he possessed something many surrender: endurance. The reality is straightforward. Your present circumstances are not your permanent address. Your occupation does not dictate your tomorrow. Your hardships do not set your boundaries. And your history does not control your possibilities. Achievement rarely emerges from ease, it emerges during unseen nights, through modest advances. Through declining to abandon when every signal urges surrender. So press forward, even when belief is scarce, even when advancement seems hidden, even when exhaustion weighs heavy. Because one day you may step into space and suddenly grasp something profound. The vision you once quietly repeated has quietly become your reality. And on that day, you will look backward and recognize a deep truth. The hardship never blocked you, it was shaping you. So rise, continue the effort, continue the faith. And always remember, your dawn may be nearer than it appears.